So welcome back, everybody, from the 21-day challenge. I'm here with my friend Kelley Hails, who is an emergency room and integrative medicine specialist, also a specialist in this process called the work. And this is pointing to that last item on the 21-day challenge, which is inquiring into your thinking. And I like to think that we're walking around with all kinds of thoughts and beliefs about ourselves, about the future, about everybody else that aren't true, but they're ruling our lives. And as I mentioned in the intro, this has been a really, really amazing process to kind of cut the delusion of thinking and bring that mind quiet again. When sometimes even meditation, even exercise, even the Wim Hof breathing, all of that sometimes doesn't get to it, this is what I turn to. And so I'm really glad that Kelley can demonstrate. So we're actually going to do, we're going to show you the process. She's going to facilitate me over some fresh issues that I had just last night. And I'm looking forward to this facilitation to kind of get clear on something that's actually really bothering me at this moment. So I'm feeling really grateful for that. So thank you again, Kelley. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Lara, for the invitation. This is a wonderful group, and I'm thrilled to be part of it. And you just said something so important to me in the work, was that, like, this is something bothering me today. To me, that's the best place to start. We don't have to go looking for stressful thoughts. They're with us. So even minor incidents sometimes can be just such a wealth of, a treasure trove.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm ready to start if you are.
Okay, that sounds great. So do you have a stressful thought that you've discovered or a situation?
Yeah, so a situation happened last night. My husband and I were out. We do this random acts of kindness process that's from the challenge. And we were giving out little envelopes with money in them, and we were putting them on car windshields at the supermarket. And my husband went and put his out, and he put it on what I thought was the passenger side of the car next to him. And as he was getting back into the car, I said to him, you should really put on the driver's side, because usually there's just one person, they're not going to see it, and then they might lose it, it might get lost in the wind or something like that. You just push it over. You put it to lateral, put it central at least, or on his side. And as he came back into the car, I said that right as he was coming back into the car. And he turned to me and he said, I know what I'm doing. And it really, it was, I really felt criticized. And so my one-liner would be that he criticized me. Ian criticized me.
Great, thank you, Lara. So I'm going to bring you back. The work again is a meditation. So I'm going to bring you back. I invite you to close your eyes and just see yourself back in that situation. So there you are, sitting in your car last night. And Ian you've just noticed that Ian put it on the other side of the windshield and, his envelopes, as you're doing these random acts of kindness. Really sink into that situation. Notice there you are in the car. Mm-hmm. He's getting back in, you're telling him where you like it on the windshield, that he should put it on more closer to the driver's side. And he sits and turns to you and he says, I know what I'm doing. Ian criticized you. Is it true?
Yeah. Yeah, he really did. I felt terrible after he said that.
Ian criticized you in that moment as he's getting back into the car and turns and says to you, I know what I'm doing. Can you absolutely know it's true that he criticized you?
No, I can't absolutely know.
And how do you react? What happens in you when you believe this thought? Ian criticized me. And there you are, sitting in the car with Ian.
Right in the flash, in that moment, I get really, really small. Like I feel like I'm 6 years old. and I can feel my heart kind of beating. I feel really constricted. I feel scared. I feel really scared. And I just start to think, wow, this guy's a real jerk. And I remember, you know, other times where he's raised his voice. I get on myself for, you know, I said to myself, well, I shouldn't have said anything. You know, who do you think you are, Lara, to say something like that? I shouldn't have said anything. I should know better. You know, he knows what he's doing. It feels really, the energy in it feels really familiar. It's I feel very like victim-y, you know. I'd be like, in that moment, if you'd said, you know, are you a victim of like domestic violence, you know, I'd be like, yeah, I am. Like, I just really feel it. And then I think, you know, what a jerk. You know, why does he have to ruin these great moments with this stuff, with his anger, you know? Why can't he just be in the flow of things? We were having a good time, and now this is bad. It's all ruined. The whole night's ruined. It's gonna be a bad night, you know. And then I get on myself again for having said anything, you know. And then I think, yeah, it just sort of becomes, my head just becomes like thoughts about me, thoughts about him, you know, past images of you know, another time where he snapped, kind of. I didn't really get into his business. Like, what the heck, you know? He's such a Neanderthal, you know. He's so base. And then in that moment, then I think of myself as like super great and evolved and spiritual, you know. And then the next moment, I'm like, God, I'm an idiot, you know. I can't even manage this relationship. I can't even manage my own emotions. Clearly he didn't mean anything bad by it. I'm the one exaggerating. This has something to do with my dad. You know, I just get, my head just goes spinning, and I lose the moment. I don't see anything good. You know, you'd ask me how my day was, I'd be like, it was shitty. You know, nothing's good. Just miss out on everything. Miss out on giving these envelopes. Miss out on, all I can see in that moment is just me sitting in this car. And everything else has disappeared. Yeah, I'm a totally different person, you know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just notice, coming back to that situation, there you are sitting in the car. You've noticed he put it on the passenger side instead of the driver's side. Comes back to the car. You said you should put it here because of why you chose to do that. He turns to you and he says, I know what I'm doing. Who would you be in that moment if you couldn't believe the thought Ian criticized you?
It's hard. That's hard to imagine, you know. It's such a, he did, right? So, let me see if I can find it. It just feels like it takes some imagination.
Yeah, it takes some stillness. So I invite you to get really still. And just like in your mindfulness practice, just get still in that moment and notice all the same areas that you noticed before with the thought. Look there again.
Okay.
Who are you without that thought in that moment? What do you notice sitting there? Ian's next to you.
Well, I can notice in my body first. I can notice like the energy's there, so I'm not kind of slumped down. I'm more just sitting up in this, you know, comfortable seat. I just noticed without the thought that his tone doesn't match the experience. You know, this is like a really fun, cool experience. We were in a kind of a cool place, and I just see the difference there. And so I'm just sort of like curious as to why that is. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious. I'm curious. I'm confident. You know, I'm on a normal time. I don't have any fears of my husband. Where it's not, you know, right before then I was excited. I was, you know, happy to be with him. Happy to be doing this. You know, I was actually really appreciating him just a moment before that he was open to doing this. So this is one of the first times he's done the random acts of kindness, and so it's kind of sweet, you know. And I was really grateful. I was like, wow, he's a great, this is a good catch, this guy, you know. And so without the thought he's criticizing me, I can kind of just go, just say, you know, well, what's up, you know. We have a really sweet, open relationship, and what's up? What did I say something to bother you? Because it wasn't my intention. And just curious for his experience. You know, he's obviously suffering. Something's triggered him, and curious to see what that is, and curious to see how I can be of assistance to him. And feeling safe, because I really know in my mind that this is not a threat. You know, I'm not in any abuse situation. You know, we've been through a lot together, and we're a great couple, and so that's how I'm feeling without the thought that he criticized me. Coming from that place, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's move to the turnarounds.
Okay.
Ian criticized you. What's a turnaround?
So a turnaround to the self would be I criticized me.
So what did you just find in your inquiry? Just answering those 4 questions.
Yeah.
What might be an example of that?
Yeah, I was criticizing myself for having said something to him. I was criticizing myself for bringing him into this situation. You know, if I hadn't brought up we should do these random acts, I hadn't kind of insisted that we do them, we wouldn't be in this spot, you know. I criticized me, yeah, up and down. I mean, it's the usual self-critical thing that I do, you know, that I notice. So yeah, there were many ways, feeling that this was all my fault somehow, and that I could have managed it differently was me really criticizing myself. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can find that.
Ian criticized you. Can you see another turnaround, another opposite?
So the turnaround to the other would be I criticized him. I criticized him. I turned one sort of gruff response into, you know, making him an abuser. You know, I took a little thing that he did that I wasn't clear on, that I don't know what happened completely, and made it out to be that he's like, I should report him or something, you know, this horrible person, you know. So I really exaggerated what he did. I criticized him. You know, in my mind, he should be happy all the time. He shouldn't ever be gruff. He should never have a reaction to things that's not appropriate, you know, which is not something that's not my standard for me, you know. I mean, it is my standard, but that doesn't really work because I don't meet that standard. So I was I often ask him to do something that I'm not able to do myself, which is to keep complete equanimity and happiness all the time. You know, that's how he should be, you know, and I don't. So I'm criticizing him there. And I think if I'm really honest, what comes up for this is, you know, this whole random acts of kindness and the 21-day challenge is my thing. And I get that a little bit, this is my thing and this is how you do it. And I think I was even a little bit like that before. And I know I get like that with him. I get sort of possessive and, you know, well, now that the guy is going out and doing these things, well, now it's a real thing, you know, like there's this sort of funny harboring resentment there. And so I think I was probably critical of him in my tone when I said, well, no, you have to put it there. I can see that there was probably a little bit of that when I was talking to him. no, you should do it this way kind of thing, because I know, because I have all this experience, So I can see, and I don't know if he was responding to that, but I can find it in me where I'm critical of him. Yeah, I can definitely find that. Yeah.
Ian criticized you. Do you see any other turnarounds? Any other opposites?
So the opposite is he didn't criticize me. And I mean, the truth is, I don't know what he meant by that. I didn't have the curiosity or I didn't have it in my bandwidth in that moment to ask him to clarify because I was so triggered. So he didn't criticize me. I don't know if he criticized me or not. He said, I know what I'm doing. I interpreted the tone as being a critical tone. But I don't know, from what I do know from him, he really gets annoyed when people tell him how to do things. And we've talked about it in a really nice and open way, that when people do that and he gets this sort of reaction at work and different situations, and he said to me, it's like, my mom used to be always on me. And so I know that he does sometimes misinterpret that and gets a bit triggered. He gets a bit triggered by people that remind him of that. And so he wasn't criticizing me. He was responding to something. And I was the one made it about me. And, even as I noticed, even as I was telling the story, part of me wanted to be like, okay, girls, you know what it's like to be with such a jerk of a guy, and I'm making this huge deal about something that I truly know is not a threat to me. Is how I know he sometimes snaps a little bit, and every time he snaps, he's quick to recognize it. He's quick to apologize. He's just living out whatever's going on for him in the consciousness of like a really good person. He's not what I'm making him out to be when I'm saying this. So he's not criticizing me. I can really find that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have one for that, Lara. Are you willing to hear it?
Oh yeah, no, please share.
And sometimes for me, like the work just brings us back to like, instead of our interpretation of something, but just like the obvious factual piece instead of what meaning we put on it. But
yeah.
What comes up to me is he said, I know what I'm doing. So he only spoke of himself.
That's true. He didn't say
anything about you.
No, he didn't.
Just in that one moment,
No, he didn't. No.
He said something about himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally. And the great thing is he knows me so well. He even said to me this morning, he's like, I know I really triggered you with that yesterday, and I invite you to use today's supper with Kelley to talk about that. I mean, he's such a dear, he's so dear. And yeah, I just want to go give him a hug. Oh. Thank you, Kelley.
It's such a privilege to sit with you, Lara, and you're incredible.
That is really great. Yeah. It's supposed to be just kind of a demo, but it really kind of shifted for me. So I appreciate that. So for everybody, if this is something that, leave your comments about what you think about this process. If there's something you want to know more about, or if you want to reach out to one of us, that would be great. We are open to doing some facilitations with you, and really want to introduce this to as many people as possible, especially physicians, because of how it's changed our life. And there's a big ask of physicians right now, the big ask for us to be able to do all this while maintaining family life and dealing with the stresses of COVID, whether that be increased shifts with increased exposure and that whole story, or on the other hand, if they be being furloughed and having the additional new stresses of not being able to practice. So really wanting for us all to use this opportunity to start to really look closer into our minds and develop these practices that can really help us now and when life gets, quote, back to normal. So we're here for you. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for coming, Kelley. So nice to see you.
Thanks, Lara. It was wonderful to be here with you today.
Okay, thank you.